3,000 for after school and 1,500 per summer. And here's just an example of how that would look if you were serving students, specifically looking at the last bullet where you have a combined after school and summer program. You would multiply the 30 students times the $3,000 per student for after school. Then you'll multiply the 1,500 times the 30 students in your summer school and combine that together for your amount of 135,000. Programs are expected to provide the same level of service to the same number of students for the same number of hours every week. What that means is we expect you to have a schedule that's kind of consistent and that all students will get to participate in all projects. We expect your participants to attend regularly and for you to take attendance and record your students. And we reserve the right to not award subgrants pending quality of the applications and the federal allocations. So if your application is not strong enough, of course, and they don't meet the requirements, those applications will not be funded and they have to meet all federal regulations. Eligible applicants are community-based organizations in South Carolina with a 501c3 designation and an active SAM.gov registration. So you must have a 501c3 designation. You must be recognized as a nonprofit organization and have an active and public SAM.gov registration. Please note, we understand that right now, especially with SAM.gov, there has been a little bit of a backlog in getting SAM.gov registrations approved. And that may be also the case with your 501c3 application. So what we have decided to do for those organizations who are right now in the process of waiting to hear back on either their 501c3 designation or their SAM.gov, we will allow you to apply for the application, apply for the grant. We ask that you then include with your attachments a copy of whatever documentation they have sent you to say that they have received your application and it is being reviewed. You should have received maybe an email or a letter that states that they have received your application and it is in the process of being reviewed. If your scores are high enough and you are approved for the grant, we will give you a conditional approval until you receive your 501c3 designation or your SAM.gov becomes active. And once we can verify that information, we will make those awards at that time, pending that we still have additional funds available. Our timeline is a pretty quick turnaround. Of course, today is the technical assistance. The deadline will be February 2nd, 2023 for your applications to be submitted back to us online. It is my plan to have awards go out, notifications go out by the end of February or definitely by the first week or so of March. The funding period does begin on February 1. We will have a technical assistance to discuss your financials on February 17th with our partner ClassWallet, and your funding period will end on September 30th, 2024. Programs must be in safe environments that are accessible to all students. There may be occasion where the SCDE staff will visit and tour your locations to make sure everything is in order at all times. You have to make sure that you are adhering to any local zoning or safety permits that your particular community requires. You must be accessible to all individuals with disabilities and or non-discriminatory. And you will need to submit to us also a GEPA statement, a General Education Provisions Act statement. And we will have information on what that is. It is there in the application where you can go and kind of see more about that and to give you a sample of what that looks like. But that will be a requirement for federal funds. Applicants must propose academic instruction and enrichment activities to help students meet and exceed state and local standards. So we'll be looking for your applications to talk about programs or projects you will be doing that will provide assistance to students in the areas of the core academics, math, reading, social studies, science, those types of things. We want to see a very strong academic component in all these projects. Programmatic operation, the after-school and summer initiative programs must be provided outside the regular school day, which means after school. However, we will not be approving any before school activities, only after school. A lot of schools now are on a modified schedule where they have the intercession periods. We will also approve programs that are offered during those periods and even on holidays. Programs that may offer students a program may offer services to students during normal school hours on days when the schools are not in session. So during those intercession periods or holidays, we will allow that as well. And let me go back and say, as far as when we can approve programming, we will allow for some Saturday programming as well during the school year. However, that cannot count as part of your normal weekly schedule. That will be an additional day on your weekly schedule. Pay very close attention to pages 3 and 4 of your RFP. That's where we go over all of the federal regulations that are tied to this funding. It is accessible online here at the website. We have a link there for you as well, but make sure you review all of those regulations, because you will be responsible for everything that's there being a recipient of federal funds. Here again, we talk about the SAM.gov. This is a requirement that you must have an active SAM.gov to receive federal funding. So make sure that you have your SAM.gov. If you already have it, check your renewal date to make sure the renewal date, if it's coming up, that you have renewed, because we would hate for you to apply and in the middle of us reviewing, you fail to go back and renew, and then by the time the applications are made, your SAM.gov is no longer active. So make sure you're on top of that and that it is publicly viewable. There is a button, I believe, or a checkbox on the website SAM.gov that you have to actually click or manipulate somehow so that your SAM.gov is viewable, because we will be checking to make sure these are active SAM registrations. So make sure you have that made viewable for us. And we will also be checking on your 501c3 designation. So make sure all that information is correct as well. That will be reviewed before your application can even be sent over to the reviewers. If we cannot identify that you are a 501c3 and that your SAM.gov is active, your application will not be reviewed. Again, applications must include an after-school, summer, or some other non-school time activities, how activities are expected to improve student achievement. And if you have other programs operating on your sites, how will those programs all coordinate to expand, enhance what you will be building newly with these ESSER funds? We want to make sure that we have to make the most use of all funds that you have in your organization. So if you're going to be building on programs you already have, please let us know that, and let us know other funding sources that will be you will use to combine to enhance or expand your programs. Operational requirements. The minimum for after-school services is 10 hours per week for at least 4 days per week. And that is any day, Monday through Friday, and it must be consistent from week to week. We ask that, except for on Fridays, at least 50% of each day's schedule include academic or social and emotional instruction. And again, Saturday activities are optional, but they may not take the place of the 10 hours required for after-school programming. And if you're going to have Saturday programming, make sure you account for that in your detailed spending plan. to cover any cost of programs that will take place on Saturdays. We ask that you offer activities and services consistent with academic and enrichment goals and objectives that you outline in your application. And again, the minimum of 4 hours per day, 4 days per week. I'm sorry, this is for summer. My apologies. For summer, make sure the minimum you offer is 4 hours per day and 4 days a week. At least 4 days a week for at least 4 weeks between the dates of June 1st and July 31st for summer of 2023 and summer of 2024. We do know that some schools have shorter summers now because of the modified schedule, but as long as you get those 4 weeks in that time period, that will be allowable. However, you can go more than 4 weeks. 4 weeks is just the minimum that you do. You can do more than 4 days, 4 hours a day. But we ask that the minimum you do for summer is 4 hours a day, at least 4 days a week for 4 weeks during the summertime. Projects must maintain an average daily attendance of 85% of the approved enrollment to receive continued funding. So if you are serving 100 students and your application comes in to fund a program for 100 students, we want to see in your attendance records that at least 85 students were on your site daily. Okay, so it's very, very important. If your average daily attendance falls below 85%, then your award may be reduced to what your new average attendance is. So if you ask for funding for 100 students, but on average you're only serving 60, we may go in and readjust your amount so that you have $3,000 per student times 60 students than the 100 students you originally asked for. So it's very important that you maintain your attendance, and it is at least 85% on a daily basis. Applicants who are not proposing to employ certified teachers, that is okay. We're not requiring that you have certified teachers, but we do ask that they are knowledgeable of South Carolina academic standards and have the necessary subject matter credentials. So you may want to look at maybe paraprofessionals who work there in the schools, students who are enrolled in education as college students, but make sure that they are aware of the academic standards for South Carolina and that they are qualified to provide academic instruction. And please remember that these subgrants cannot be used to purchase any food purchases. So we can't buy food for a family night. We can't buy food for after school program. We can't buy food for snacks. There is no instance where we will allow food to be purchased with these ESSER funds. If there are projects that you're doing and the purchase of food is required, we recommend that you use those funds from some of your other funding sources to cover the cost of the food, and ESSER can cover the cost of the project minus the food. Subgrants must maintain direct oversight of implementation and administration of their after school and summer projects, and no subgranting is allowed, which means you cannot, if we award you $100,000, you can't then in turn award 10 other organizations funding from your 100,000. That money is awarded to one organization, and we expect that organization to provide the services. And no more than 20% of your total award can be given to one vendor for services. So keep that in mind as you're looking at your vendors. You cannot provide more than 20% of your total award to any one vendor. The activities you propose should address the unique needs of low-income children or students with disabilities, English learners, and those in those populations. You can use these funds to purchase supplies to sanitize and clean the facilities. Also, you can provide mental health services through the implementation of evidence-based strategies. There are lots of programs out there or organizations you can partner with that provide social emotional activities to students. So that will be allowed. We ask that you plan and implement activities related to summer learning, and that will be supplemental to your after-school programs. Addressing learning loss. So if you have good relationships with the school districts, I would recommend that you talk to them about specifics you may want to target, so that you will help them in their quest also to increase the learning loss. Any activities that take place after school or during the summer are more detailed out for you in pages 6 and 7 of the RFP. Again, it says that these activities should take place after school, on the weekends, or during school, during the summer. Even if there are field trips that are approved by SCDE for you and your students, they cannot be taken during the school day. They also have to be done after school, on the weekends, or during the summer. Unauthorized activities. These funds can be used to fund salaries and benefits of those that work directly with your organization that receives the award. However, we cannot pay for folks who are not employed by the organization. There will be no capital improvements such as renovating your buildings or putting on a new roof. Again, no purchase of food, no purchase of field trips whose primary source is for entertainment, such as a trip to Carowinds or, you know, Frankie's Fun Park. The field trips that we will approve have to be educational in nature. These funds cannot be used to purchase gift cards or gift certificates or provide any type of monetary incentive to students. We're not giving any incentives for staff, no bonuses, no merit pay, none of that with these after-school funding, and no purchase of technology except for approved software. What that means is we're not buying computers, we can't buy iPads, we can't buy those types of things. However, if there is a software that you're using for academic recovery or to teach a foreign language or those types of things, and it is a software, that can be considered for a liability. The South Carolina Department of Education, along with the Office of OEP, will be monitoring all your ESSA sub-grants to ensure that funds are used as outlined in your application and to address the impact of COVID. So keep that in mind. Sub-grantees that meet the eligibility requirements for the initiative and provides all required assurances that it will comply with the program implementation and reporting required in the RFP. So make sure you look at what your reporting requirements are. We'll have some specifics we have to do for this federal funds. And sub-grantee may implement activities funded through the sub-grant within the timeline in which the funds are provided. So anything that happens prior to February 1, 2023 or after 9/30/2024 cannot be funded using these funds. Along with your application, you will have to submit to us a pre-award risk assessment. So in compliance with federal regs, we will be conducting annual risk assessments as well. The Office of Auditing Services reserves the right to conduct further evaluation of your financial systems or internal controls after they receive these risk assessments. Again, you must satisfy periodic reporting and accountability requirements that address your accountability programmatically, your reporting requirements, review of your spending plan, your monitoring, your sub-grantee monitoring, and any technical assistance. So this is a very, how can I say, high profile funding source. So we have to be very, very careful and make sure that everything that we use these ESSER funds for are in compliance with the rules and regulations that are around this funding. So there will be lots of monitoring from our office to make sure we all are on the same page and that we're being fiscally responsible with these federal funds. Again, I ask that you go look at these hyperlinks when you get this slide deck to review these rules and regulations that are set on these funding to make sure that your organization can comply. Also, in your detailed spending plan, you need to talk about any anticipated expenditures of the sub-grant to be submitted with this application. Whatever you think you're going to need these funds for, make sure it is included in your spending plan. If it is not in your spending plan and those you submit invoices for reimbursement and what you've submitted to us has not been approved in your plan, those invoices will be rejected. So be careful to think about everything you will need ESSER funds for and include that in your spending plan. There will be a quarterly report that is due every quarter to reflect your spending. This is the schedule of the reporting periods and when those reports will be due. It is an online report. And if you are awarded funding, you will receive training on that and the link to go in to complete your quarterly report. This grant, we will use a platform with an organization called ClassWallet to do those fiscal reimbursements for us. Again, you'll have that training back on February 17th, but it is important that if you are funded, that you maintain copies of every purchase order, every invoice, and every proof of payment when spending these funds, because we will need those three things in order to make reimbursements with ClassWallet. As we go through your program, if we notice that some of the things coming through are not allowable expenses or outside the scope of your approved application, we will reach out to you to have a conversation about that to make sure that everything is in order. So make sure what you're doing are allowable expenses, that your reports are thorough and complete, and be prepared to explain any discrepancies we may find in the use of funds and the actual expenditures. Sub-grantees are required to conduct ongoing monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the funds are used for allowable activities. Activities are to be reported quarterly, again, on your quarterly report, and a final report will be due at the end of the sub-grant period. And that final report will be both fiscal and programmatic. Sub-grantees are required to participate in all technical assistance that is offered from our office, and they may include online webinars, conference calls, as well as in-person meetings. Again, you can only use these funds for approved activities within the budget period. You must contain direct control of the grant. Again, you cannot sub-grant out to other organizations, and any unspent funds at the end of the grant period will be retained by SCDE. When we're looking at your costs, or when you're thinking about your costs in building your spending plan, make sure what you're thinking about is reasonable. If you're going to have to purchase a curriculum and the curriculum is, $3,000 per child, that's an unreasonable expense. However, a curriculum that runs maybe between $150, $200 a child, depending on what it is, may be more reasonable. So make sure you think about things such as that. We ask that you have a basis amount in building your budget. So if you're going to serve 20 students, and you're going to purchase a curriculum, it's going to be $50 per student. I would recommend that in your budget, you say this curriculum will cost this amount, and then have the formula 20 students times 50, curriculum booklets or whatever, as clear as you can, so we can see how you're coming about those amounts you're asking for in your budget. The more detail you give us, the easier it will be for us to work through your budget. Okay, here's just more about your allowable costs. Again, all this is straight from your RFP, so you can always go back there for more information. Okay, unallowable costs is just too many to even try to list. So we ask that you again go back to your RFP and review those unallowable costs. Okay, we're going to stop for a moment to give me a chance to catch my breath. And if Jennifer would let me know if there are any questions that I did not cover that are sitting in the chat.
Oh, there are plenty of questions and good questions, so I don't know that you're going to get a chance to hold your breath.
Okay.
Sorry. Some of them I tried to answer for you, but others I thought the whole group could hear, so I held off on answering some.
Okay.
The question was asked a few times, do schools qualify as applicants or only community-based nonprofits? And then we had a couple more questions concerning that.
Okay, let's address that first.
Perfect.
This particular, this source of funding here through the initiative is only for community-based organizations. School districts have received funds, ARP funds already for after-school programming. So it's the applicants, the primary applicants in this application, this opportunity must be community-based organizations, not school districts or schools.
Okay, all right, that answered quite a few. I said that we started the recording a little late. That's my bad. I am so sorry. But we will be sending out the recording that we do have and the slides after this. Let's see. Do you encourage nonprofits to partner with school districts, or do you require partnering?
We do not require that they partner with the school district. That is not a requirement. Partnering is not a requirement, but it is strongly recommended.
Okay. Would separate grant applications need to be submitted if applying for summer and after school? I know we have not gone over the application itself yet, but if you wanted to answer that.
It's a separate request, yes, but it's in the same application, and we will go over that a little bit more. So you won't have to do two different submissions. It's one submission, but you can do one submission for after school and summer.
Okay. It says that sam.gov is just pending. They did not send an email and did not have a phone to call, and didn't answer the email they sent. So are there any tips for those who just got a pending screen?
Working with other organizations, I was recalling that they did send an email back that said they received your information and your application was pending. I would say if you have that pending screen and no email came back from sam.gov, print a copy of that screen and include it in your application.
Okay, and we have other people who are on the call, thank you, that says they take a long time to approve, just keep checking back.
Right.
Thank you,
They
Ms.
are
Jessup.
behind. At one point, they even had on their website, "We're sorry, we're behind," kind of thing. So that's why we're not going to hold that against any organizations while they wait and allow you to go ahead and apply.
Okay, is the sam.gov the DUNS number?
No, DUNS numbers have been done away with. Now we have a unique, it's called the UEI, and it escapes me what the E stands for. Audrey, if you want to jump in and tell me what the E stands for. But it's called your UEI number. It's an alphanumeric number that has replaced your DUN.
It's entity.
Entity, thank you. Unique entity identifier.
Thank you all who responded. All right, let's see. Is tutoring an acceptable alternative to after-school programs?
Tutoring is what we kind of say as a part of your after school program. So unless you're requesting just to do tutoring, that is acceptable, that is allowable. So that can be included in your application if that answers your question. A tutoring program can be your after school program.
Okay,
Again, make sure your tutors are qualified to provide the tutoring.
And just to circle back to the sam.gov, there was a number posted in the chat where you should be able to get them directly. So thank you for posting that. Another question says, our YMCA offers summer camp and after school at 3 separate branch facilities, as well as another site in partnership with a local school. Should we apply as an organization or per site?
I would say that would be your choice. If you apply as an organization, you can just combine the number of students from the sites together. And then the one applicant will then be responsible for providing funding services to all the sites. Or you could apply separately if you want to have fiscal control at that particular site. So whichever works best for your entity, if that makes sense. If you don't mind one entity having fiscal control and working with all sites, do it that way. Just count all your numbers together. Or each one can do it individually, so they'll have their own fiscal control per site.
All right, thank you. Would Countdown to Kindergarten be considered a summer program that can be funded with this grant?
Yes. I'm very familiar
Okay.
with Countdown to Kindergarten.
I was not, so I wanted to leave that for you. We provide a summer program at the school. We employ teachers from the school, and we have an arrangement with the district that the teachers are on their payroll, and we have reimbursed the school district. This will put them over the 20%. Is this okay?
That's a very... I'm going to, Jennifer, write down who that is and let me talk over that with a couple of folks and we'll get back to you. We'll make a public, I'll answer that question maybe in a e-blast in case other folks have the same question, but let me check on that because it is a very, it's a situation I don't want to penalize you for because I understand what you're doing and why you're doing it that way. It just makes it much cleaner as far as fiscal reporting. So I will get back with you on that. We'll talk that through here at the agency.
Okay, we will come back to that one. What portion of the grant is allowed for payroll purposes?
That's in your budget. When you do your detailed spending plan, you would put there how much you need for salaries and fringe. So there's not a portion set aside for that. You build your budget in your spending plan to tell us how you're going to spend the funds. So I would recommend that we'll talk about the budget a little bit further on, and how it should look coming in. But yeah, there's no money set aside just for salaries. Just you ask for a pot of money and then you explain to us in what categories you're going to do the spending.
Okay. In the same realm of budgeting, can funds be used for to pay employees and for rental space, for gas to pick up students from school?
Yeah, we'll talk more about all that in a few moments, and maybe I'll answer all those questions. Any of those type of questions, Jennifer, will probably get in the next section.
Perfect. All right. Let's see. This a multi-year grant, meaning could we write for summer 23 and 24?
Right. This application is for both summers. So when you submit your budget, you're submitted, but you'll see again in the detailed spending plan where we're asking for your year one, summer one, year two, summer two budget. So all that will come in this one application.
All right. How do we get the GEP? If that means the GEPA, that is in the RFP, it's something you just write, but the rules and regulations for what a GEPA is part of the RFP. So
Right.
You can find that in there. Let's see. Like I said, we got a lot of questions even while we were answering these, so I'm trying to go through them to the best of my ability as quickly as I can.
Well, what we'll do, we do have a transcript of this, so we may have to put together a little FAQ.
Okay, we can
if
do
you don't
that.
get to all the questions. So I'm going to go back into the presentation, but still collect the questions there. Again, we'll put
Certainly.
together an FAQ and get it out to everyone or put it on the website if we don't get all the questions answered today. But I don't want to hold us up too long in getting through the presentation. So we're going to get to the questions, may not all be at this moment, and some of them will probably be answered in the next section. So we'll move forward to the actual application overview. Your narrative must be 12 pages, a maximum of 12 pages, not including your table of contents. Use Times New Roman or Arial in 12-point font, 1-inch margins on all sides. Please include your page numbers at the bottom right. Double spaced, please, but your charts can be single spaced. And this application will need to be converted to a PDF file to be submitted, along with your appendices and your pre-award questionnaire. All should have to be converted into a PDF format to be attached and submitted. And your spending plan will be an Excel document. You must submit using the online application form. There is no faxed or email or mailed version of this application. There are two sections, the online forms portion of the application, as well as the proposal attachments. We ask that you follow all the instructions. They clearly state in the RFP how we need to have everything compiled together and attached to your online form, and follow the directions for each section for saving documents. And page 26 will tell you how to upload the documents into the application online. Looking at the program narrative, the first thing we're going to ask you about is your organization itself. So you may want to talk about some other successful programs that you've had, and your capacity to provide educational and enrichment activities. You want to, this is a chance to kind of tell your good news and to show where you have the capacity to handle these funds. You want to talk about any other projects you may have had, any other federal, state, foundation grants you may have managed. So this is a chance for you to kind of let us know who you are and how you can provide a successful program using these funds. You want to talk about any collaborations you may have. If you have other pots of money, how you're going to coordinate these funds with these other funds to expand or grow your program. And also talk about your automated accounting system. You have to if you're still writing out checks by hand, that's not sufficient. You need to have an automated system that will allow you to run reports, that helps you to make sure taxes are being paid correctly and all those types of things. So we'll need a little bit of information about your automated accounting system. We're asked that you talk about in your adequacy of resources, your staffing, that you have a proper ratio of teacher to student or adult to student. Talk about any of the positions that will be funded if you're going to fund tutors, teachers, all that, whomever you're going to be funding. Have a description of those positions, describe what they do, what the qualifications are going to be, and how many employees will be needed for each position. So if you're going to need 4 teachers, explain to us here that you'll need 4 certified teachers to do X amount for your organization. Talk a little bit about the facility location, where it is, and that it is accessible for everyone, and any other facilities or equipment or supplies, including any other partner contributions that make this the best site for the initiative. Include that for us as well. And this is where we're getting to your after school and summer. For both after school and summer programs, you must complete section A and section B, 3A and 3B of your application. If you're doing just after school only, you'll just need to do 3A. If you're doing summer only, just do 3B. But if you're doing both summer and after school in any time during the budget period from February 2nd through September 30th, if you're doing both, you need to complete section 3A and section 3B. And both sections kind of duplicate each other. We're going to ask you to explain how a learning loss will be addressed, describe all the activities and strategies you've planned, and if there are any partners that will be participating to address these goals. So if you're working with any other partner explain to us here who they are and what service they will provide. And this is for 3A is for after school. Also, if you're going to have students who attend regularly should improve in their school attendance, classroom performance, and reduce disciplinary referrals. What are your programs you're going to be offering them for social emotional learning? Are you going to provide any type of mental health activities? Are you going to provide any activity that may help those students with those soft skills? Describe those activities and describe any partners you'll have working with you to address those goals as well. So 3A will be for after school programs. The same questions come in line for 3B, which is your summer programming. So if you're having after school and summer, you fill out both sections again with those details. If you're doing just one or the other, just do that one section, either section 3A or section 3B. Section 4, again, this talks about your academic and enrichment activities and propose any academic or enrichment activities that are based upon evidence-based research or best practices. You can check your definitions for more information on what we consider as evidence-based research. We ask that you cite this research as well and discuss how instructional activities and teaching strategies are designed to be innovative and engaging. So if you're going to do something a special way or a new and improved way that's going to really teach kids to do math in a more fun way, kind of explain those activities to us. Program evaluation and assessment. We want you to describe the outcomes, what you expect to see, what growth you expect to see in your students, what type of data will be collected, when you will collect that data, who will be collecting the data, and have that on hand for us. Explain how the data will be analyzed, how we'll report it, and how it will be used to make changes if necessary in your project. Identify different audiences who will be provided the evaluation data and report. So if you're going to be looking to increase student achievement, you may want to work with a school district or work with parents somehow to be able to collect student report cards or whatever you're looking to do. You need to show us how you're going to show that your program was successful, what data you're going to use to back up that success. The application spending plan. Once you have, if you're going to serve 20 students in after school at $3,000 per student, that's a $60,000 budget. So everything that you need to do for this project has to come from that $60,000, okay? So make sure in your spending plan, all proposed expenditures, including your summer school, must be itemized in your spending plan. It is a spreadsheet. It is online. When you go to the website, you will click where it says detailed spending plan, and it is a 2-page spending plan. When you fill out the second page of it, it will automatically fill the first page for you. Okay. So if you're talking about whatever activity you're discussing in your program design, if there's a fiscal requirement or fiscal need for that project, for that program you've talked about, it needs to be outlined in your spending plan. So in your activities, if you talked about you're going to purchase a new curriculum, we need to see the cost of that curriculum in that spending plan. So everything you say you're going to do in your program design, make sure there's a line item to match it in your spending plan. Again, this detailed spending plan is online, and it is an Excel spreadsheet. You will complete it and attach it to your online submission as an Excel spreadsheet. We reserve the right to disqualify or disallow or even negotiate certain items in your spending plan if we see that is necessary. The funds will be reimbursed will be reimbursed to you through Class Wallet. There will be no advance funding available. You must keep all your supporting documents for each claim submitted. And you may not obligate funds before receiving your subgrant notification. So if do not, because you wrote the grant does not mean you got the grant. So please don't go out and start planning and spending money until you have, one, received an award notice, and two, signed all the paperwork with the Department of Ed. Here's an example of what we're kind of looking for in your spending plan. As far as details are concerned, as you can see, it's separated by year one, summer one, year two, and summer two. So this will be your total award that you're asking for, would be the sum of all of these. And we have here, if you're going to hire a project director to oversee the program. So you're letting me know, one, the title of the person, two, kind of what they will be doing. They'll be doing it at $40 an hour for 30 hours per week for 30 weeks in after school. And that's how you got this amount. And they'll also be doing 40 hours a week at $40 per hour for 30 hours per week for 10 weeks in the summer. And that's how you got this number. So we'll be looking for this type of formula throughout your spending plan, even as you're making purchases for supplies. You know, you may want to, if you're going to buy supplies, and you may use a formula like $25 per student to cover the cost of your supplies for your student. If you're going to write in for an academic field trip, you need to explain that to us as well, and then put in there, you know, the cost of the admissions to, if there's an admission to the field trip per student, what that admission cost would be. And keep in mind, we're only paying for children. So if your adults are going on field trips, which we hope they're going with the kids on field trips, we will not cover their costs. Those costs should come from other funding sources in your agency. This is your certification signature page, which has to be signed by the authorized official and your financial official. And it says superintendent, but you know, you guys aren't school districts, so we don't expect to see a superintendent signature there. But this certifies that you are assuming, you know, all the responsibilities, and you will follow all the rules, all the guidelines, all the assurances and conditions that are attached to this funding. This is a legally binding contract between the two of us. Other attachments you would need to be submitting online would be your GEPA statement, again, and instructions for that are on page 42 of your RFP. Your request for a tax identification number, we'll need a copy of your W-9. The link to complete that is on page 43, and your design template. Your program design template just kind of puts for us in a little nutshell what you said you're going to do. Okay, so goal 1 and goal 2 would be what you're going to do for the summer and what information you'll be collecting to measure your growth in that area. And program goal 1 and 2, the second set is for summer. So if you're just doing for summer, you would just do the bottom half. But this just gives me everything you're going to talk about kind of in a nutshell. So if we need to pull out a plan, rather than going through all 12 pages, we'll have a quick summary of what you're doing in your programs. And this will also need to be attached to your online submission. Additionally, we'll need memorandums of agreement. What that means is if you have any partner or any persons or entities you're working with to provide financial literacy, or if they're going to come in and do a special type of PE class, whatever you're bringing in, any outside entity to do services for, we must have an MOA, especially if they're going to be receiving ESSER funds. We recommend that you outline in that MOA what they said they were going to do, how many days they're going to do it, how many hours they're going to do it every day, how many kids they're going to see, and what the per pupil cost of that will be. So what is in your MOA? If you're going to be paying for those services, and this particular vendor is going to charge you $2,000, we expect to see a line item in your spending plan that says for this service, this organization will provide this service, and we'll expect to see that $2,000 in that spending plan. So if there's any partners you're having, and actually, even if they're not receiving federal funds, if there's something they're doing as a volunteer, it's still good to have the agreement so everybody will understand what the terms and conditions are, and what the expectations are. But any MOAs you're need to be included in the agreement. If after you receive your funds and you decide, or there is another organization that you think can help with what you have been approved on doing, at that point, you will let us know. We will then require MOA from that organization at that time. So we're not saying that if you don't have anybody, that you can't make any new partnerships as it goes on, because you can. Just make sure you make us aware of it. If it's going to require a budget amendment, that you make us aware of it, and that an MOA is signed by both parties. Your pre-award questionnaire will also have to be submitted. It asks a lot of questions about your fiscal management and your internal controls. It's about 3 or 4 pages that will have to be completed as well, and submitted as an attachment with your application. Applications must be submitted by February 2nd at 5:00 p.m. After this deadline, they will not be considered. They're all coming into us electronically, so we'll see the time that they come in. You must adhere to all the guidelines, and please follow the directions in RFP. If we didn't ask you for it, and even though you think it's great, we didn't ask you for it, don't send it to us, especially because there's a limit of how much how much information can be attached in your online submission. The only other thing that is not listed as an attachment that we will accept would be documentation of pending SAM.gov or nonprofit status. Your applications will not be returned, so please keep a copy of everything there at your agency, and you can refer to your RFP for more information. Read the RFP thoroughly first. I can't stress that enough, so you'll know exactly what all is entitled with these funds. Follow the structure and the order of the outline. Give us titles, headings, just use the same format we've used. If you're talking about adequacy of resources, title that section, adequacy of resources, so we'll know you're addressing it. Number 1, and answer the questions or the information for number 1. So be as clear as you can in this application process. Note all your must-have items, things that I say we have to have attached. Make sure you have all that there. And before you make sure you collect everything, write everything up, and get everything together, and then go through and edit it one more time before you actually make your submission. Use clear and concise language. You only have 12 pages, so let's, get to the point. Don't spend a lot of time creating these beautiful stories for us, even though they're probably great. We want to know all about them, but you have 12 pages, and we're going to make sure you get what you need to get in that frame. Create your paragraphs that focus on one point at a time. After you finish it for a day, as a grant writer, I would advise you to set it aside and go back, or let somebody else read it. Someone who may not even really know much about what you're doing. Say, hey, read this and then tell me what I said I was going to do, to make sure it is clear. Make sure everything that has to be signed is signed by the proper folks. And I beg you, do not wait till the last day to submit. This is technology, things happen, so if you're submitting at 4:45 on the 2nd and your computer crashes or our system crashes, get in as early as you can. Do not wait till the last day. Submissions after the deadline, you sitting there at 4:59 pressing submit, and your computer starts to clock. And when it hits my system at 5:02, it's after the deadline. Okay. If we've asked for certain things in your application and you didn't give it to us, that's a common mistake. Incomplete application, make sure everything is completed, everything is there. I don't think there's anything we've asked for that you should not have, right? Everything we ask for, you should have. Be consistent in your information. Like I said, if you set it in your narrative, let it show up in your spending plan. Don't let us see anything in your spending plan that was not in your narrative. Be specific with your data, with your evidence. Give us your best writing. Make sure it's good writing, and make sure everything is signed correctly in the correct spots by the correct people. A couple of reminders: follow the instructions on page 19 through 27. Once you submit an application to us, you can't call and say, oh, wait, I did it wrong. Can you send it back? We can't send it back. If you made a mistake, what you need to do is submit the entire application again. The one we will look at will be the most recent, the latest one submitted. So if you submitted an application on Tuesday at 4 o'clock and you say, oh, I did something wrong, you submit another one on Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we're going to discard the one from Tuesday and look at the one from Wednesday. The contact person will receive a confirmation email and a copy of all the data that was submitted. So whomever that person is, they will make sure your email is correct so you can get that confirmation email. And I would also keep that confirmation along with any other documents, because this is technology. If something happens and we say we never got it, you can say, well, here's my confirmation email that I did receive it. So make sure you keep that confirmation. A few more reminders. The applications must originate from the applicant. So if you are whoever is writing the grant is who we expect to do the work. Okay. And we do not, pull applications from the internet or copy other applications. And again, they will not be returned. So be sure to keep a copy for your records. Here's some contact information. Again, it's the ESSER reporting email, which is checked all day. It comes to my phone. Chrissy checks it all day. And we have a 24-hour response time in getting back to emails. Even if we don't know the answer, we have 24 hours to let you know we're still working on getting you an answer. Okay. Quick questions before we move into the actual application submission. Anything, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, pick out a few of the big ones, and like I said, we'll work on putting together a question and FAQ document.
Okay. And I love that they have questions to show they're interested, and hopefully we can get these answers to them as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Let's see. I saw a few where it talked about the requirements basically for someone who, like, not if it's not a certified teacher, who would be qualified to teach or to be that
To do
person.
the treatment. Yes, that is discussed briefly in your RFP.
Okay.
It tells you what would be allowable.
Is there a reason this grant does not cover after school programs? It seems to only cover fall after school programs. Sorry, it only seems to cover spring and summer.
Well, for this year, it's mostly spring and summer because we're starting so late in the year. But for school year 23-24, it'll cover the entire school year for after school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can the signature on the electronic or on the certification signature page be an electronic signature?
Yes, we'll take electronic signatures.
Okay.
But it's still a binding signature, so you
Right.
can't turn around and say, "Oh, I didn't sign that."
Let's see. Can we use recreational departments as sites under our plan?
Yes.
Okay. And a couple more. If we are utilizing a consultant to help complete the grant application and to also manage grant compliance following possible funding, can they be included in the detailed spending plan for use of their services as part of payroll, or would that be considered an unauthorized use of funds?
Definitely any services before the application could not be included. As long as those costs are reasonable and they, and it's detailed what their role will be in the application, I would recommend you submit it, and we will, as we go through the application, consider it, and if we need to reach out to you to discuss that, we will. But it would only be for services rendered between February 1st of 2023 and September 30th of 2024. So you cannot use this funds to pay a grant writer.
Okay. There are still a few more questions. Do you want me to go through those, or do you want to look at the application? I will leave that up to you.
Okay, we'll go to the application and then we'll go back. What time is
Okay.
it? Okay, we got some time. The application submission process. Okay, in this portion of the presentation, we're going to talk about how to organize a proposal before your submission and how to successfully submit the application. Again, read the entire RFP before going online. This will have the link to the webpage as well as the online submission. Again, the deadline, February 2nd, 2023 at 5 o'clock. On the SCDE webpage, if you scroll down to highlights, you'll see the box here that says grant opportunities. Here's the website to get to the State Department webpage. From grant opportunities, you will click on the American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund opportunity. Then it will take you to this page, which is the landing page for this particular project. Read all the information on that page, but if you scroll down to the bottom, this is where you'll find your online links to your detailed spending plan, to your program design template, as well as your certification page. Okay, before you begin your online submission, make sure you have these attachments in on hand, which is your 12-page, your maximum 12-page application narrative, your detailed spending plan, any attachments listed in the RFP, including your pre-award audit questionnaire. Make sure you obtain all the signatures, required all your collect all your required and optional forms, and save them as outlined in your RFP. So some of these we want you to combine and save into one PDF document. So make sure you read your instructions to include all your right documents in the correct packet of documents. And that information can be found on page 20 through 26. For your online form, the first section is just your general information. We'll need to know the name of the primary applicant. I recommend that name is also the name we will find on your 501c3 and the name we'll find on your sam.gov. That is who we're looking for the applicant to be. Please include the authorized official's name, their position, their email, their phone number, and your UEI number. If the authorized person is the same as the contact person, if you click yes, it'll direct to the next page. If you click no, another page or block will jump up just like this, where you're putting that contact person's information. If you click yes, it will pre-fill with all the same information. We're going to ask you here about your sam.gov. If you have not received your sam.gov, if it is pending, okay, you must click yes, because if you click no, it's going to shut you out of the application. So go ahead and click yes, put today's date in here or the date that you're submitting it in here. That will give me a flag that this person is pending, but I will expect to see in your attachments documentation that you submitted that sam.gov and it is pending, okay? Not just that you submitted it, because you could have submitted it the day before. I need to see that you submitted it, they've received it, and that it is pending, okay? So if that is where you are for your sam.gov, click yes and put the date you're applying there, which will be a flag to me and to our reviewers that your application for sam.gov is pending, okay? We're asking you for the county served. We want to see just where around the state programs are going to be implemented, the number of students, the days of the week, the hours you're operating, the total you're operating, and the total per week. So we'll need all this information just to give us a general oversight of how often you'll be meeting with the students. This kind of lists just a small list of different programs you could be providing to your students. So click all that apply. You would put here, this is where you would have had to have already completed your detailed budget, because we're going to be asking you for the total amount you're requesting, and then the amount you're requesting broken out by salary, fringe, purchase services, and supplies. Okay, so when you look at the first page of your detailed budget plan, you'll see those categories, the amounts you have there, put that here cumulatively for the entire project. Again, you would do the same thing for your summer programs, your summer activities, and your summer budget. If you're doing one or the other, just do the one you're working with. If you're doing them both, you have to do both sections. And the reason why we're doing this, just so you guys will know, we have to keep track of the money separately on our end as well, by summer and after school. This is where you would attach your items. So you're going to be attaching your application narrative in a PDF form, your detailed spending plan in Excel form, your signature page, your GEPA statement, your W-9, any of your MOAs, combine them all into one, attach them here, attach your program design template here, and your pre-award audit here. Okay. When you hit submit, this will come back to you. It will be a printout of everything you keyed into the system to make sure everything is right, that everything is spelled correctly, the emails are correct, that you did attach all of the documents. It will show, that the documents have been attached. If anything needs to be corrected, you can hit previous and it'll take you back into the form stack. Once you've edited all of that and everything is right, you hit submit and you will receive this message. I will say you go ahead and print this. I'll save a copy of this screen, as well as the email you will receive saying that we received your application. If for some reason you do not receive that email, or it says that it did not successfully upload, you must resubmit the entire application again. That's why I'm asking you to not wait for the last minute or the last day in case there's a glitch or whatever and you have to submit it again. The total size file cannot exceed 25 MB megabytes. We don't need a lot of color, so don't put a lot of color, just make it grayscale. If you have to do a graph or something that shows color, use grayscale. Don't send us anything we did not ask for. Do not include pictures or graphics of your facility. And you can Google how to reduce the size of PDF files if you are above the 25%, the 25 megabytes. Once the applications come in to us after 5 o'clock on the second, we will begin reviewing them. Our office will go through to make sure everything is complete, that all the information is there. We will verify SAM.gov. We'll verify that you're 501c3. And that all the proper forms and attachments and everything is there. And once we do that, you will then be moved on to our reviewers. And the detail of how the reviewing process is also outlined in your RFP, as well as a copy of the rubric that the reviewers will be using to score is also in your RFP. And again, we reserve the right to contact you for additional information as we go through the process. Just some more reminders, we cannot return an application once it's submitted. If needed and you have to redo it, you have to submit the entire application and keep all your submission documentations in case there is an issue with your submission. Again, we've talked about this a couple of times. If you are waiting for your 501c3 designation or your SAM.gov, you can apply and submit to me the documents to show that that application is pending. Remember, this is a reimbursable grant, so any expenses that have to be paid by you first, and then those invoices and proof of purchases will be submitted through ClassWallet, and ClassWallet will send you back your reimbursements. It is allowed to have multiple sessions serving different groups of students in the summer. I received that question a lot. Some of your programs are running for 2 weeks. You may serve 20 kids this 2-week period, and then another set of 20 kids the next 2 weeks period. That is allowable under this application. Just be sure to include the total amount of kids you will be serving when you do your spending plan. And again, the 85% rule will still apply to these sessions. And you'll need to have a formal MOA with any individual or organization that you will partner with, especially if they will be receiving ARPS or funds. Mileage for transporting students to and from the program or to and from an SCDE approved field trip. Mileage will be reimbursable up to the state rate of 61.5 cents per mile. You will need to maintain mileage logs for that documentation, and these costs must also be included in your spending plan. So I believe I saw in the chat someone asked specifically about gas. We will not pay for gas. We will not buy vehicles. We will not rent cars. But if you are transporting students to and from program activities, we will reimburse you 61.5 cents per mile, and your mileage log must be maintained. The mileage log will need to say the date of the trip, the miles of the trip, and that kind of thing. And it will need to be submitted whenever you're requesting reimbursement for mileage. These are contact information and questions. So it's 11:20. So Jennifer, we can look at a couple of questions, and then what I'll do, if you have your program specific questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and I'll try to add those to the FAQ if they're specific to your needs and your program. But if it's a more general question, Jennifer, go ahead and read those out. And if we have some time after that, we'll open it up so folks can maybe talk to me directly about more general questions and not program specific questions. Program specific questions we'll try to answer in the FAQ, or I'll send you an email. So is there anything we need to review right now from your chat, Jennifer?
Sure. Just to clarify, go over a couple things. Purchase services include contractors, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do they also need to submit a copy of their 501 determination letter?
If they submitted it, I would accept it. Yes, it's not required, but you could submit a copy of your letter. That would make it easier for us because we're gonna have to go out and and verify the 501c3 as well. So if you do have your designation letter, you can include that with your attachments.
Okay. Let's see. If they also receive funds from other grants, are they still eligible? Because I've seen a couple other grants pop up.
Yes, they're still eligible. What a portion of the application asks you, how are you going to coordinate with the other funding you already have on file, already have in your entity. So yes, this is not if you have additional funds, you can still receive these funds.
Okay. See, I think you covered that. I've seen a couple program specific things. Does the money follow the student, or is it specific grade levels?
Does the money follow the student? The money is awarded based on the number of students you're going to serve. So long as you're serving that number of students, if the student, if you're serving 3rd through 6th grade and a student is in 3rd grade when the program starts and they are promoted to 4th grade, the money doesn't follow the student, the money stays with the program. So long as, does that make sense? As long as the student's in the program, they can receive the services. So it's
Okay.
not linked to the students per se. This is a budget for your project.
All right. And then can be funds used to pay for the use of a facility or utilities?
The funds can be used to pay rent for the facility where the program will be housed, and we would consider paying a portion of the utilities for those projects. Unless, because if you're paying utilities, we can't pay utilities for a building and there are lots of things going on in that building. Does that make sense? So if you want to maybe prorate out for that, we can. But also remember, if you already have funding for other projects, consider using those funds for your operational costs so that these funds can go directly to the services for students. Okay, I think that'll probably be the best way to kind of make sure you get the most bang for this buck.
All right. Still a couple questions about like mileage and transportation. The one that just came in was, does mileage or transportation from school to program and then home from program count for travel reimbursement?
Right, per mile, yes.
Okay. So mostly I think they were kind of specific and or can be addressed on the FAQ.
I did
I'll
see a
turn it
couple
back to-
that jumped out when I was looking through.
Yeah.
There will not be a statewide evaluation. No, we won't be hiring statewide evaluators, but the Office of OEP will be monitoring and evaluating your project. The question was summer programs. Can we do extracurricular activities like swimming classes, music, dance, and tennis? If you can show where that is evidence-based and have the research for it, it can be considered. Okay, we'll say considered. There was a question about, is it all or nothing? I can't find it now. They were asking if they asked for 60,000, but there were some things in their application that we weren't going to allow and dropped it down to 40,000. If we're going to fund your application, however, there are things in your application that are not allowable, we'll reach out to you and ask you to either readjust your budget for the lower amount or provide additional services that are allowable to maintain the amount. If that clears up your question. And there was one more I saw.
And a few more have come in since you started as well.
Okay, the question about evidence-based intervention programs. We as an agency, we don't have a list because we don't want it to seem like we're promoting any program over the other, but you could research that through various means on the internet. There are lots of evidence-based programs on the internet. You do not have to partner with a school. Let's see. Okay, here's a question, timeline for reimbursement after submitted. We will go over that when we have our meeting with the sub-grantees who are awarded on February 17th. Pretty much the way that would work is you would submit through an online platform your documentation and proof of payment. And once that is submitted and approved, I would say give us maybe 3 to 5 days to approve it. Once it is approved, it should take maybe 3 to 5 days for the reimbursements to come back to you through ACH deposit. So it could take up to maybe, I would say, 7 to 10 days, business days to get a reimbursement. But we'll talk about that more once we get into the reimbursement with ClassWallet. Miss Amy, I hope I answered your question about the groups, but your program is for after school. I'll look at that closer and maybe send you a direct email back since that's specific to your program. Okay, let's see. No, there are no bonus points for certain areas of the state. There are no priorities or anything like that in this grant. There are no competing priorities and no bonus points. We're just collecting the county so that we can see, kind of how we are distributing the funds throughout the state. I'm not, Miss Barbie, I'm not familiar with Hello Insights for pre and post student surveys, but if that's something you guys have used in your agency to pre and post survey students, you can continue to do that. You may want to tell us a little bit about it in your application. We have a few minutes left. If you have a question you want to ask me directly, feel free to put your hands up and we'll try to give you a call or open up your mic so you can speak. Okay. Let's see, I see Teresa Purnell. Can you unmute her, Jennifer? Teresa Purnell?
Yep. I think I can. Allow mic. Yep. All right. Miss Teresa, you should be able to unmute yourself now. See if I can do that for her. Nope. I allowed the mic to be able to be used, but I can't unmute it for her.
Was it able to unmute? I think Desi, I believe you're unmuted.
Oh, I think she either left or put her hand down. I can unmute Desi, or allow, I should say. All right. Desi, you have control of your mic now, so you should be able to unmute yourself. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Not
Okay, are you
sure
guys?
either.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you have questions or we're having some problems unmuting,
Say I'm
on my
allowing
end-
it, but
yeah, on my end it looks like they're unmuted, but they're. Danielle, can you unmute?
let's see, Danielle. I haven't given her that, but I will right now. Okay, Danielle, if you would try again. There you go.
Thank you. Is it possible to have like youth workers as well who can earn a stipend for like leadership and helping with those areas to, kind of stretch the funds and have, leaders in training? Is that a possibility? And if so, how could we do that?
By youth. I would recommend you to go ahead and write that into your application with details how it would be and let us look at it and consider it. I'm not saying
Okay,
it's not allowable or that it is allowed, but again, that's something that we need to kind of look at to make sure it matches all the all our, it doesn't fall outside of our regulations.
I understand. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes. Who's open? Teresa, I believe you're open.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Teresa.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The question I have is, I have two organizations, but they are both within the same building. So I have a nonprofit and an LLC within the same building. For my bills comes in my LLC name, but it's also within the same building as my nonprofit.
Okay.
So my question is, if I was to write into the grant proposal for expenses, but it's not going to show the nonprofit expenses, it will show the LLC, because that's what the bills are all in, the LLC name. It's just within the same building.
Okay. So as again, we recommend that if you have other funding sources, you use those sources to fund your operational
Okay.
overhead costs and try
Okay.
to use these funds more for direct services. And that should, with these funds helping you with your direct services and your nonprofit, should maybe lighten a little bit of a load you may have on your LLC. And so
Yes.
we would prefer that because it'll be just a cleaner way to go. But if you're going to do that, it would have to be, again, a percentage. It could not be the whole thing because we can't support the LLC. And we could still cover, knowing your background, it could be considered as to be allowable. But I would recommend, if you guys could, those types of things, have them funded from your other sources and use these funds for more direct services.
Okay, but then my next question is, as far as my finances, they all go into the same account. I only have one account. Would I need to open up an additional account for the nonprofit?
I wouldn't think an additional account because we're not going to send you any.
Okay.
You know what? Yes, I probably would. That way you can probably have a cleaner record in case you're
Yes, ma'am.
audited on where the money went.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So I would
All right.
definitely have those reimbursements coming to a separate account where you can show where the money went out, you asked for it, and we paid you back.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. Marcia Williams. Or DeRaven Jackson.
Marcia. Yes,
Marcia, okay.
Marcia.
Marcia, you have a question?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, I was, well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. DeRaven Jackson, you have a question? Okay. Danielle Redmond or Andrina Atkins, if you guys are free to speak. Okay. Adrian Gardner. Oh, you have your hand up. Let's see. William Moore or Desi. Either of you have a question? Because you're showing your hands up. Okay.
I'm
Ms.
trying to
Jackson,
go
so we'll let-
through and allow the mic as you say them. So right
Okay.
now, DeRaven, Danielle, and Andrina and Desi all have capabilities.
Okay. Miss Jackson, DeRaven Jackson. You can unmute yourself.
Danielle said she asked.
Danielle, you can unmute yourself. And Andrina Atkins, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Ms. Atkins is asking for a description of the applicant's automated accounting system and financial management policies.
That's information you would need to give to us. So whatever system you use, if you use QuickBooks or Paycom or a variety of automated systems that you guys use to do your payroll, to pay your invoices, whatever that process is, explain, tell us in the application. In your internal, for your pre-award audit, they will be asking questions about your internal controls. We highly recommend that you all have some type of a manual that outlines your internal controls. In the RFP, I believe there's a link to the audit handbook. If not, I'll make sure we get that linked on our webpage for you to go to review to see the type of things that the auditors will be looking to see in your agency. So whatever your internal controls are, that's what we'll need for you to describe to us.
And Ms. DeRaven's question was, because they are 21st century recipients, are they still eligible for this grant? That's what she was trying to ask.
Yes. And yes, Rezan, we're done with the whole group information session. Are there any more questions? If not, this chat will be, I'll go ahead and end the call. However, I'll stay on. Jennifer, you can go ahead and unmute everyone. And those that need to log off, you can, and I'll stay on for a few moments in case folks want to ask me questions directly. But I do appreciate your time this morning. I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things you guys are going to be doing across the state. We're very excited about this opportunity, and we appreciate your time. And we're here. If you have any questions, just give us an email and we will get back to you. And we will pull this together as a frequently asked questions document, as well as post the recording on the webpage for the application. So have a great weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in. And you can unmute everyone, Jennifer.
I have, everyone has the ability, should have the ability to unmute themselves. But to prevent chaos, you may want to call on people.
Sure.
There are still people that have their hand raised, and I'm not sure if it's because they haven't turned off the hand raise or what.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
everyone should have the ability. So it looks like Desi and Carol and Brenda are all unmuted. So don't know if you want to call on any of them first.
Okay. Desi, do you have a question?
Will we get a copy of this that was presented today?
Yes, ma'am. We'll the recording and the slide deck will be posted on the webpage probably early next week.
Thank you so much.
Hello,
Sabrina,
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
William Moore. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
If I were to host 2 sites, is that possible?
Yes, sir. I believe we spoke on that earlier. If you could host 2 sites by talking about both sites in one application, or you can submit 2 separate applications.
Okay, because my plans are to partner with a church that's in a location, and at-risk location. Of course, that's been my background all of my life. And then I'm looking at partnering with a elementary school that has same area during the summer and after school. I just want to come to the meeting and talk to see if that were possible. But since it is, then we'll move forward in that. I'm looking at
Okay.
least 30 kids per site.
Okay. That sounds great.
And one more thing I need to ask Ms. Smith.
Yes, sir.
I have a curriculum for, when you talk about, I wanted to know if this is actually possible. I teach anger management, and I have an anger management curriculum for K through 12. Are we allowed to incorporate that into the curriculum also for summer and after school?
Yes, sir. That will be considered social and emotional resources.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Ms. Desi, did we get your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Alonzo Johnson?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
So the piece about where school districts are not allowed to partner with this program, correct?
No. They can partner, but they cannot be the primary applicant. If
They
you're
cannot
working
be
with the school.
primary. Now,
Right.
how is this grant related to the SC After School Alliance? We are members of that group and trying to figure out the grant that was offered through their program. How is this related?
It's not. This is a program directly from the Department of Education. It's not related to any other project.
And what is the maximum capacity for this grant that can be asked for?
There is no maximum, long as it's reasonable what you're requesting. But the minimum, I believe, is 60,000. It's the
The
lowest you can ask for,
60,000
but you
we
can,
saw,
is the
and I'm sorry
minimum.
for cutting you off, and I just printed out the application, and you are dealing with, it is based on a per student amount,
Yes, sir.
1,500 for the summer, 3,000 for the academic year, for after school.
If you're doing them both, yes, sir.
So we are doing both,
Okay.
and so 3,000 per student for after school, and after school would only be for spring of 23 and fall of 24, correct?
No, it would be for the entire school year of the 23-24 school year, and just spring of the 22-23 school year.
And for summer 23 and summer 24.
Yes, sir.
And that's so you can project out the summer 24, and that's it.
Yes, sir.
And one last question: no professional grant writers can be paid to assist with this.
No, not from these funds, no, sir.
Okay, thank you kindly. And
Yes, sir.
when will we get the email with the verbatim from this meeting?
And we hope to have that posted on the website. It will not be an email. We'll post it on the website early next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Singletary?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
I'm thinking, don't I know you?
You probably do. I've been
I
around.
recognize it.
Yeah, I think you do. I wanted to ask a question. We did the Freedom School last year at Francis Burns.
Yes.
And we used, we called them consultants, person that came in like for one session to do health or do counseling, something with the young people. And as I read this, and I just needed understanding, those kind of people don't need an MOA, do they, or do they? I just need to know.
And will you be providing them, will they be receiving funds from the program?
Yeah, they will bill us, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So they need an MOA. Okay. Are
Yes.
you all providing those, or can we just provide our own MOA? So do you have a specific format?
No, ma'am. You provide your own.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm
Sure.
gonna call you later because I wanted to ask you a question in there. I'll talk to you
Okay.
later. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's see, Miss Brenda Jamison?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question concerning the salary. I'm an after school only, and I do summer camp also. I wanted to know, instead of putting the personnel in salary, can I pay them with purchase services?
Will they be contracted people working with you, or I mean, how does that work? You don't have payroll? Are they not employees of your agency?
They are, but since it's just for a couple of hours a day, I usually don't do do salaries per se.
I see.
I do it like contracted services.
Yes, I understand. So yes, that should go. Just explain that to us in your application, and so you don't file tax or anything on them. They do all that themselves.
Right, they do that
I
themselves.
see. Yes, ma'am. Just explain that in your application.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
I believe Ms. Atkinson. Do we have a
yes. Yes, you have a question on your application. It says, describe how the proposed program will be conducted in active collaboration with other organizations and explain how challenges and obstacles will be resolved.
Yes, ma'am. And your question?
My question is, so if I am using an organization for mental illness, or social, emotional.
Right.
That would be the proposed program, that the organization that I would use. So I guess, is it supposed to be evidence-based as well?
Yes, we want all the projects to be evidence-based, to be able to show that this what we're doing is going to work or will have a positive effect on the students. Yes.
Okay, so we need to explain how those challenges and obstacles will be resolved, whatever the children are going through.
Right. Whatever strategies they're going to be using with the students, that those strategies are evidence-based. Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
good afternoon, or morning it
Thank
is.
you. Thank you. I don't see any more hands up unless, Ms. Jackson? Oh, she's gone now.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a question? I saw your hand went back up.
Yes, the question is, being that I'm the CEO and director for the program, as far as salary and me paying myself, would it be an issue because I signed the checks?
As long as your internal controls have a process for that. So you want to make sure that's something you have written out and explained in your internal controls.
Okay.
Mhm.
And for the 21st century also, being that we are 21st century recipients, and our program for 21st century actually ends July 31st of 2023. If this grant is awarded, will we be able to, will we still be eligible to apply for this?
Oh, yes, this grant is, even if you have a 21st century or summer reading grant, you can still apply for these funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Floyd, Susan Floyd?
Yes, I have a question. So it says the total amount awarded is 5 million. Is that just for 2023, or is that for the full 2023-24 months?
Right, here at the agency, we have approximately $5 million to award for the entire project.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Mhm.
And are there any specifications on the like mental health aspect?
No, not really. Those, we're allowing the organizations to submit to us what their plans are for those things. We don't have any rules or guidelines on how you guys have to do it. What you submit to us just need to be reasonable and shown to be effective.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think I've gotten everyone unless Mr. Johnson has another question or Ms. Atkins has another question. Okay, if
One
not,
just came in the chat.
okay.
It just says private school nonprofit can apply.
No, private schools cannot apply for this funding.
I think that was it.
Okay. Well, we'll say goodbye for a second time, but I'll still hang around just a bit. But I'll hang around for about 2 minutes. And if I don't have any questions, we'll look to see your applications coming in on February 2nd.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we able to ask another question?